Your Side I-Team is uncovering new information about some semi-truck drivers who chose to put themselves and other drivers like you and me at risk on the roads over the summer.
The common denominator here, doing heroin and getting behind the wheel. I-Team reporter Hillary Lake found loopholes in drugged driving laws which are meant to keep us safe. Hillary.
Well, Tanya, we started looking into this after a witness to one of those trucker ODs contacted the I-Team with questions about how that driver was operating a big rig in the first place. What we discovered boils down to a technicality with truck keys and poor communication.
Hello, Cincinnati Police. He's in there.
From the truck cab,
he's right here,
to the curb.
What's going on?
Relaxing.
You're not relaxing. What'd you take?
A big rig driver high on heroin on a city street.
Did you take some heroin today?
Earlier.
Just now? Did you overdose?
3 weeks later, police say Scotty Kinman,
Ma'am, you said he slumped over?
Did drugs behind the wheel again, this time during rush hour on the interstate.
Yes, in his driver's seat, but now the truck is rolling backwards on 74.
It's just no different than an 80,000-pound time bomb, because that's all it is.
Seconds is all police in the village of Cleves had after a different driver overdosed in a tanker truck at a gas station. The I-Team first told you about Christopher Phoenix in July.
If he had rolled out and bumped into a station with the pumps, that could have been catastrophic for a small town like ours.
Tracy Grome asked the 9 on Your Side I-Team for answers about how drug truck drivers end up behind the wheel in the first place, putting other drivers in danger.
I'm just absolutely livid. What do you expect when you ingest heroin and get behind an 18-wheeler?
Grome recalls her front row seat to the near disaster on I-74 near Green Township.
And I thought that he had died. He was gray, his lips were blue.
The I-Team obtained a police report showing Kinman provided investigators with a written statement saying, quote, "All I remember is waking up on the ground." We also discovered 24 days before that August overdose on the interstate, Cincinnati police found him high on heroin in the same truck.
Your eyes are still pinpoint, man. Don't lie to me.
Police charged Kinman with disorderly conduct instead of drugged driving because his keys weren't in the ignition.
What are the trucking companies doing? You know, were they aware of his arrest a month ago?
Kinman's company, J&S Transport Incorporated, wouldn't talk to me on camera about his drug use. The company's safety manager tells me she didn't know the truth about his arrest for disorderly conduct. She says he continued driving until his OVI arrest here on I-74. Kentucky even renewed his commercial driver's license 9 days before that arrest because his previous arrest wasn't on his record.
How many truck drivers are there out there on the road that we have no idea that are practicing in this type of behavior?
The I-Team took Kinman and Phoenix's cases to Tom Balzer. He represents the trucking industry in Ohio.
This is an abnormality. It's something that does not happen every day.
Balzer says the industry as a whole has the best safety record since the 1950s.
To say that why did the employer miss it, you know, there's some responsibility on the driver as well.
Federal rules require random drug testing for just 25% of truck drivers on the road each year.
A driver may go several years and never be tested, unless there's an incident that occurs.
Kentucky State Police Sergeant Jason Morris tells the I-Team states are not required to communicate with each other about trucker arrests, although some do.
And if the states do not communicate with each other, then you have that instance where the driver may never have anything come back on his driver's license.
Remember, that's exactly what happened with Scotty Kinman's first arrest in Cincinnati. Sergeant Morris also says law enforcement isn't required to tell trucking companies about employee arrests.
The drivers are required to tell them. Of course, we all know that that doesn't happen in most instances.
Kinman's employer tells the I-Team it found out about his DUI arrest by watching the news.
He looks like he is as high as a kite.
Sergeant Morris thinks mandatory communication among state driving agencies, law enforcement, and trucking companies would help keep all drivers safe.
There can always be better communication.
Tracy Grome thinks so too.
There's time for a change.
Sit down.
I mean, clearly, it's a different time now.
Well, you're being arrested.
And Scotty Kinman pled guilty to OVI in September. He's currently in jail, and his driver's license and his CDL are suspended for a year. The other driver, Christopher Phoenix, entered an inpatient rehab center last week as part of a deal he made with drug court. His driver's licenses are also suspended, and we do plan on taking what we discovered about that communication breakdown to state and federal lawmakers to see what they have to say about it, and we'll let you know what they have to say. Hillary Lake, 9 on your side.
We know